Hey everyone, welcome to Mayfield and Friends episode 16. Today I'm here with Cudabear, best known for the Time Traveler Ironman YouTube series. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to us? Who are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm Cudabear. As mentioned, yep, I do the Time Traveler Iron Man series, which is a time locked account that plays through each update as though the game was just being developed from the beginning, kind of like by release, but with more of a focus on the meta training that happened at the time and less on just specific quests. I also do a macro efficient, or I did a macro efficient series as well, where I played through the game just kind of normally, but from a efficient perspective, at least in terms of getting progressed up to the quest cape.
Wonderful, wonderful. And what kind of led you down the path of the Time Traveler Locked Ironman? Was it by release that kind of first inspired you, or was it kind of very similar timelines that you guys both started your series? I haven't watched his series in quite a while.
So I think by release came out in late 2017, early 2018. Around that time, I was just brainstorming my series, so I hadn't really created any content. I didn't start mine until 2020, pretty much. Um, but at the time, there was actually a Reddit post that had been posted that more or less detailed the game mode that I wound up going with. Not necessarily even just like by release, do the quest in order, but specifically focus on all the updates. The reason I thought that was so cool was I was a person who, like most of us, I'm sure, started playing the game a long time ago when I was young and wasn't able to play very much and not really enjoy the game to its fullest at each era. So being able to experience the game from a perspective of like, okay, I'm playing the game to its fullest, getting progressed up, completing all the content as it comes out, looking forward to the next updates that are coming out throughout the entire game development history was a really cool idea to me. So that's kind of what drew me in. And then during the planning phase of the series, doing all the research and just kind of getting a feel for how fun it would be to experience all those updates one by one really kind of sealed the deal.
Awesome. And I'm sure there are many people who have asked you this question before, but were there any updates you were like, well, I want to skip that, but you had to do it anyway so far? Or is there anything you're looking forward to that's coming up soon? Where you're at in your
Yeah,
series?
actually. So for those who haven't watched the series, there's something I take in it called an excessive grinding exception, where basically the goal is to try to complete all the content that was released, but sometimes there's an obscene amount of time that would be required to actually complete it. So I balance that with the value of the unlock. So for example, when the game was first released in 2001, you could technically mine and smith up to adamant, but the only way you could do that was by doing one inventory at a time by walking all the way from Varrock to Lumbridge where the only furnace was. So with that considered, it was going to be a multi-thousand-dollar grind just to get adamant gear, which is not a huge upgrade considering what you could buy at the time as well. So I kind of put that as a backlogged excessive grinding exception, and I've done that a few times. Probably another notable one is I didn't actually do the glory amulet grind when the glory first came out. I waited for a future month where a slightly better method of training crafting came out. Um, so there's been a handful of updates like that where it's like I'm not committing to a 500, 1,000, 2,000 hour grind for this small upgrade. I'll backlog it and do it later when it's a little bit more efficient to do it. And
Awesome.
then the second part of your question was about future updates I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Future updates that like, and just so at the point we're recording, it's currently March 5th, 2023. Where are you at right now, or where did your last episode leave off in the year and the month, or the update? I guess what you were doing.
So right now I just concluded September of 2002, and with that came the first boss in the game, the King Black Dragon. So that was pretty exciting. Unfortunately, there wasn't really any drops for the King Black Dragon that were unique or different, so all I really had to do was just kill it once. That was still an adventure, and it was pretty cool, but there wasn't really any reason to grind it out. So what I think I'm looking forward to most is getting out of RuneScape Classic and getting into like the early RuneScape 2 era with a lot of the really early RuneScape PVM that was available, such as like Dagonoth Kings, Barrows, that kind of stuff. Just like real nostalgic. Doing that in the era gear, I think that'll be really fun.
And I know the one of the big exceptions that you've made in the initial beginning of your account was when you got a pet super early.
Oh yeah.
what kind of led you to the direction of saying I'm going to keep the pet and not just suicide and let it go?
Yeah, so I had actually written that rule. That was like one of the earliest things I wrote because I thought it would be really funny to have to release a pet if I actually got it. It's very rare, so I didn't think it would actually happen, but lo and behold, it did actually happen.
The Iron Man YouTuber
Um,
luck.
yeah, exactly. So we got the woodcutting beaver, I think, in March of 2002, and it was basically just the community. Not a single person wanted to see me release the pet, so it became a bit of a meme, and we wound up like cherishing it and calling it Paradox because that's what it was, which was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as for like getting out of RuneScape Classic, RuneScape Classic was basically Ultimate Iron Man, wasn't it? Before the bank was released.
Yeah, up until July of 2001, I believe, there was no bank. Well, correction, there was a bank that could store only coins,
Did
but no items.
Did you ever consider making the series as an Ultimate, or was traditional Iron Man always kind of your viewpoint on it?
Traditional Iron Man for sure. I knew I had to play those first few months as an ultimate, so that was going to be more than enough of a taste of it for me. Personally, I find a lot of motivation from seeing resources stack up in the bank, so I don't think I would ever really be cut out for a UIM playstyle, especially on a restricted Iron Man like that. I have a lot of respect for people who do play UIMs because it would be so disheartening for me to have to drop so many resources on the ground instead of just stacking them up, even pointless ones.
I say it's funny you mentioned that. I always get like because I don't keep from Winter Todd. I don't keep burnt pages, and I also don't keep Snapdragon seeds because getting red spider eggs in my account just sucks.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
So I drop both of those, and every time I get like a tome of fire, I always message my client and I was like, "Hey, does anybody want a tome of fire?" Because it's like almost a mil at this point.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's just like somebody gets a free tome whenever I get them, and then I'd probably drop like a million snaps every day.
Wow.
There was a point I kept them and like dropped them over my main, but with my main having to get like a bond every time, it just like if I was only dropping 6 mil over, it was like that was like a bond. That was it. So it didn't matter. And I want the looting bag space for other things.
That does make a lot of sense.
So I totally understand like that methodology in your mind of not wanting to drop things, especially because they may become extremely useful later on.
Oh, and even some items that I know won't be very useful later on. Like, for example, I have got on Time Traveler 800 regular attack potions. I know I'm probably never going to use them because I have access to super attacks and plenty of those, but I still hold on to them just because. Might as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing you could do with them is every time you use your, because do you have access to the Dragon Battle Axe yet?
I do have access to the Dragon Battle Axe, but no special attacks until RS2 is released.
Okay. Well, when the special attacks come out, you can just use those regular attacks as like to get yourself back up to the regular level, and then just start using supers after that. There's
Yeah,
one.
that's a good point.
There's one dose. Only 800 Slayer tasks.
That's true. But I also do have a stack of about 400 restore potions, so we'll have to see which one's more useful, I guess.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
Yeah.
So
Also, a stack of 500, I think, fishing potions because there was no super energies, and that was the only Avento based potion to make at the time.
it's funny that you say that because that's what I make too. I just
Oh,
drop.
really?
Yeah, that's what I make on the UIM because like getting Mortmire fungus is virtually impossible. I can. I have to do Sulicep trees though, and it's very dangerous for me.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because the snape grass is farmable slash pickupable.
Exactly. Yeah, I just farm it. I have quite a bit of it. Say I usually save levels until I can get like a good milestone. So right now I'm at 82. Spoiler for the next video. I'm one level up from where I was from the 99 hunter grind. And oh, another spoiler. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. But yeah, I usually keep my herbs and potions until I can get like a 5 or a 10, and then I'll just
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, then I'll just full send it. Because I'm like you, I like to watch things stack up. So like in my looting bag, I just let like things stack up, and then I won't. The best part about the looting bag though is I don't check. Right, I don't check until like a couple weeks or like the next big experience milestone that I hit, and then I'm like, oh, I have 1,000 more of this herb that I didn't have before because I do consistent herb runs between my solos.
That makes sense.
So Now, you said that, experiencing the game from the beginning, because a lot of us as kids didn't have that kind of time or that kind of knowledge as well. Because I feel like even myself, when I first started playing, the first big thing I remember was Hunter coming out. And so, is there any like big milestone coming up that you remember coming out as a kid that you're excited to like revisit?
So that's actually a really good question. I actually started playing the game in late 2005, December to be specific. So I really don't have any memories of RuneScape Classic. I never played it in the era. So for the most part, this is all new to me, at least where I currently am located as well. So that makes it even a little bit more interesting, I think, because I'm not just reliving certain updates that I remember from my past. I'm actually playing the game at an era where I never had a chance to. Um, but I definitely think like when I hit that point where I know like it's going to be the same experience that I had as a kid doing some specific updates, that's going to be pretty cool as well. But I think there's a special kind of awesomeness, I guess, to playing in an era where I never had a chance to before as well.
Absolutely. What skills are you missing right now in classic? I know there's quite a few you're missing. I guess not what are you missing, but perchance, but what are you like what skill are you most looking forward to training as it came out?
That's a good question as well, and I haven't really thought about that. So as of right now, I do have all of the skills that were released in RuneScape Classic. Um, so the only ones I'm missing are runecrafting, slayer, farming, construction, and hunter. And if I had to pick one of those, I think it would probably be farming, just because I really like the interval training style that you get with farming, just kind of built into the design of the skill. I like being able to take a break every hour or so, do a herb run, or do the morning tree run just to get a nice boost of experience that way. That's definitely been missing from my playstyle. It's always a little it can get a little grating to just like know every time you log in you're going to be killing chaos druids and you can't even take a small break to go do a farm run.
I totally get it. It's funny that you mentioned morning farm runs. I have this vivid memory of I would always get up in the morning before middle school, and me and my mom would watch Malcolm in the Middle right away before school. I would always wake up like even earlier, and I would we would watch the show together, and I would do a farm run right away in the morning when I was like, God, I must have been like 13, 12. And like I have like such vivid memories of like waking up early enough just to do that. Like that was where my my addiction lay. It was like, yeah, no, I got to get this done before I go to school, so that my trees are ready when I get back home.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I actually had a little bit of an opposite experience though. I was one of those newbie kids who didn't understand farming very well when I was little. So I didn't really start getting into the routine of doing a morning trip or something until I was much older, and I was one of those accounts with like 7 farming in 2008-9 era.
I love that though. It's funny like because a lot of us who are playing now, of course, grew up with the game. There's there's some anomaly people who like they got into it as old school released or like a couple years later. I think one of the funniest things as well I remember is like I didn't know you could break stuff down in construction. So what I would do is I would build the things and then I would delete the room and then remake the room for like 20K.
Oh man.
So I my construction level was always super low because of that because I was like, oh, I'm not rich enough to train construction.
Oh wow. Yeah, that would get pricey really fast.
So it's like some of those fun little things that you think about back in the day. So like, at what point in like your I guess career of playing the game do you kind of feel like you hit the point where you felt comfortable playing the game and you were like you were like, okay, I get it now.
Oh, that's a good question. I'd have to say probably like the golden years for me were pre EOC, post free trade removal. So like 2009, 2010, 2011. I feel like that's when I really hit a stride and I started getting some 99s and doing a lot of more efficient skilling versus just like wandering all the time and getting scammed in banks and stuff. Um, that was when things really started to take off for me. But then I was surprised when old school. So I left with EOC released like many people did, and then when old school was released, I was surprised like how many gaps in knowledge I even had then versus now. So it's
Hmm.
been a growing experience throughout old school, the time that old school has been available as well, even though it did feel like I knew the whole world back in pre OC time.
It's funny that you mentioned the drop after EOC. Not many people who I talked to played during EOC, and I actually played RS3 until 2015. I played old school, of course, on day release like everybody else, but it wasn't like it wasn't polished, right? It was like the clunky things, like the no orbs next to your mini map, the few other things I can't really think of at the time, but like it actually steered me away initially, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep playing RuneScape 3.
Oh yeah, I think that's what steered me away as well, because I have revisited RuneScape 3 a few times in the last decade, and I do think like the combat system isn't bad. It's its own kind of uniqueness, but when it first was released, it was a very clunky, as you said, kind of messy experience, and that's what initially pushed me away.
I I've been a level 3 for a very long time, so many people who have listened to this cast have heard me talk about this. Um, but I remember the action bar coming out, and this was before like shift drop in OS or anything like that. And you could just click the number on your bar after you put something in it, and it would just auto drop it for you. And let me tell you, the quality of life as a skiller for me, that was mwah, chef's kiss.
See that it was pretty cool. It was mostly just the combat, I think, that kind of scared me away, because at the time wasn't playing a level 3 skiller. I had started as a level 3 skiller way back in like 2007, but had progressed away from that.
Well, since we're talking about it, why don't we, you started a new series recently, very similar to the kind of content I make as a level 3 Iron myself. I just play UIM, and of course, you play a level 3 Iron Man now. So, what kind of brought you to start the new series?
Yeah, so I had finished the macro efficient series in the middle of last year and was kind of looking for something to start up again, because in content creation I kind of like to have two series going at once, so that way I have different things to engage myself in content creation, so it's not always constantly the same thing, but also to vary it up a little bit for viewers as well. It's not always like just constantly time traveler, especially because time traveler in specific, many episodes take 100, 200, 300 hours to make. So having something to fill the gap is really nice. Um, so when I was thinking of something to actually start up as that second kind of side project, which is funny because now it's more or less my main project. I haven't been focusing on time traveler very much recently, but um, I kind of wanted to recreate that experience that I had back when I first started my first skiller. So I started the game like most people in 2005, just like, training up all my skills, training combat, doing quests, whatever. But when I actually lost access to my first account, and when I went to start up my second account, I wanted to do something special with it, and I had seen other people just avoid training combat and stay level 3, so I thought that was pretty cool and unique back then. And that era of like 2007, 2008, when I was a level 3 skiller, is just like so special in my mind. I was looking to kind of recreate that experience. And then in addition to that, I wanted to make it an Ironman, not only because it's a little bit more interesting, I feel, having to source all your resources on yourself on a level 3, it makes the complexity of that even a little bit more intense. Um, I never made a series of it, but I do have a normie regular Iron Man that I've had a lot of fun with. It's kind of just stuck in the mid game right now, but I had a lot of fun in the early game with it. So I figured putting the two together would make for a pretty good time and some pretty interesting content.
Awesome. And playing a level 3 again after I don't know how long it's been for you, on top of being an Iron Man, how is that like? How is that change in how you look at skills?
So actually, when I came back to old school, first old school, or when old school was released, rather, my first old school account was also a level 3 skiller, but it was a normie level 3 skiller because obviously Iron Man mode didn't even exist back then. Um, so making it an Iron Man also kind of makes that experience a little different as well. Um, but yeah, it's been a pretty good time.
Awesome. Awesome. So as for the Iron Skiller and the Time Traveler. What are you reaching towards? What are your current goals?
That's pretty interesting question. So with the time traveler, the goal has kind of always been to just catch up to the modern era. But I'm realizing the further I get into that project that that's more or less impossible. So pretty much just keep progressing, I guess, is the goal on that account. I'm mostly looking to see what it's going to be like when I hit a major milestone. Like for example, when we complete RuneScape Classic, that'll be a good time to evaluate, is it worth continuing the series? If it is, then we'll try to make it to the end of the RuneScape 2 backup date, which I think is like August 2007. And then we can also evaluate then, like, is it worth continuing the series, and just kind of see how the community feels about it as well. Um, I thought it would have been really cool to be able to keep progressing that series up until the actual modern era, but I just don't have the capability to actually catch up. There's just too much content in this game. Even playing month by month, some months take way too long. But for the level 3 Ironman skiller, I pretty much just want to do everything that I consider to be interesting or notable on a level 3 Ironman skiller, other than like becoming maxed, right? Like that's
Yeah.
obviously really cool, but the amount of time that that would take, I don't know if is necessarily worth it from a content perspective. But it would be really cool to do things like get trophy items like flippers or a bear hat, that kind of, ice gloves, those kinds of like really interesting challenges that would be really cool to showcase. And then in addition to that, try to get my Slayer up as high as possible with any new methods come out or exist now. I know a lot of the like partner Slayer stuff isn't available anymore that people used in the past, so I feel like it'd be pretty interesting to showcase some Slayer training on that account as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know like Slayer trading is something I've thought about doing in the far future, just to unlock broader fletching, just to make my life easier when it comes to buying arrowheads. Because right now, of course, I'm buying them from the Catherby fletching shop, but 200 mil fletching isn't in my near future. So I've got plenty of time to workshop that and think about it.
Yeah, and even accumulating Slayer points, that'll be interesting. I didn't even have that in mind, just getting experience.
Yeah, it's. I think the best way to do is Wildy Slayer because Wildy Slayer, I think, so many places are multi combat. So as
That
long
makes a lot
as
of sense.
the skiller hits like a zero with a fun weapon, or catches a damage with poison dynamite, if a main kills it, you still get half the experience, so you can still finish the task. It just, especially on an ultimate, I'll have to death pile every 50 minutes to
Oh
avoid
yeah.
losing everything.
That still counts as a kill count for your Slayer task?
It does.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, but the hard part is like a lot of the level threes are mildly against a fun weapon being out. Not a lot, I should say. I say it's a small minority with very loud voices are very against fun weapons because a lot of them have
Yeah.
done 90 plus Slayer at the Varric Museum,
Hmm.
and they believe it will devalue everything.
Yeah, that's a really tough one for sure. Though Jagex seems to be keen to keep accidentally adding guaranteed miss melee weapons. They just did it again with the 10-year anniversary.
I know. Yeah, it was the Christmas event and the anniversary not too long, like not even 3 months later, which is hilarious.
Yeah, they did patch it a week later, unfortunately, but I was able to take advantage of it for the Shiloh Village quest, which was nice.
That is nice. I That's actually funny. I like, um, for those who don't know, I wrote a level 3 Iron Man or UIM hardcore Iron Man. Doesn't really matter what you use guide, and in that guide, that's how you do Shiloh Village. And I've done it on a level 3 UIM. I've never done it on Mayfield. I'm just haven't had a reason to yet.
Not even for the one small favor experience lamps.
No, I haven't. It's funny. The only like combat quests I've done are the Arctic Cloak ones, so like Biohazard, and I've done some of the. I did Demon Slayer back before you could do zero combat. Well, you still could do zero combat. Fossil Island, but I just killed the demon. I went to LMS, stole the boost, and then just murdered the demon, and got like, I don't know, like 10 strength XP. I've never been one to really care too much about perfect zero XP methods. So as long as I don't level my skills, I really don't care that much.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of the same way, but I kind of want to exhaust every possible potential option before investing that combat experience into unlocking something.
Yes.
And so far so good. I haven't bumped into anything that necessitated it thanks to Poison Dynamite. So we'll have to see.
And see, I made my account back in like mid 2019. So it was like a lot of the stuff that we know now is like the spawn hitting the stuff. And before that was patched and the cannon spawn hitting, like that was just stuff I never knew about. So I just was like, well, I'm going to go to the rogues castle. And going to go thieve rogues and I'm going to go get my, poison dagger. And I'm going to go do these things and then I'm going to be done with it.
Yeah, I think on my original old school RuneScape skiller, I did that too for pretty much every quest, and I think I only had like 40 total combat experience from it, so it's not that much that you get.
And then I also think about like, if I want to end up doing the Desert Diary, I'm gonna get a guaranteed 20 strength experience, or is it 40 from the sarcophagus? And I don't know. It all depends on what I end up wanting to do, but I've kind of moved away from the trophy account mindset and I'm back into my experience milestone mindset. So it's one of those
Not
hard
a bad way to
things.
look at it.
What was that? Sorry.
I said not a bad way to look at it.
Yeah. So I'm not worried about like being the most efficient or getting every quest done that I can or anything of that nature. I just want to see the number go up.
Yep.
Number go up good. So all that all that being said, moving forward, you mentioned a few things on the time travel you're looking forward to playing back then. Is there anything that you're looking forward to coming out in the main game? Maybe playing on your mid-level iron or on your macro efficient main account just to experience things, or have you gone into experience some of the new stuff like your Tombs of a Masket or the Phantom Muffin?
The Phantom Muffin, that's great.
He looks delicious. I want to eat him.
That's wonderful. Um, so I actually do from time to time just hop on my normie main and explore some of the newer content. At first, I wanted to do showcase videos of new updates, but then I kind of decided against it because there's already a lot of that out there, and it was taking more time than I wanted to invest. And with my channel, I try not to just shovel content out, like try to meet an arbitrary weekly deadline or whatever. Instead, I try to wait until things are done and then put them out. So I just didn't think it was a good fit for it. So, but I still got a chance to explore a lot of it. Like, for example, I think I've got like 60 TOA kill count on my main, just kind of messing around in there, which is a lot of fun. I haven't done the Phantom Muffin yet, but that's definitely something I want to do at some point. Um, in terms of future content I'm looking forward to, though, I think uh, I want to say Demon Slayer 2, but it's Desert Treasure 2 is going to be pretty cool. I think that'll be an experience when that comes out. I'm really looking forward to that. And the Ruinous Prayers, if they can ever decide what they're actually going to do with them and get the community to agree on it, we'll have to see. That would be pretty cool too.
I was like, speaking of the Ruinous Prayer, since it's so fresh, everybody's talking about it. What would you like to see from a new prayer book?
So I actually have really fond memories of curses, and I know a lot of people, and they're probably right to some extent, aren't opposed to seeing curses exactly how they were in like pre-OSC because they were significantly powerful and it add a lot of power creep to the game. But I do think that kind of like I would love to see some kind of overhead that passively heals you when you deal damage. That would be really cool. Some kind of slight upgrade would be really nice for offensive prayers would be really cool. Of course, like a really high prayer level and possibly also locked behind other content similar to Augury and Rigor. That'd be really cool. I also thought the reflection protection prayers as a small upgrade was a really cool idea they did back then. So yeah, basically more or less, I just want curses back in the game.
No, that's fair. That's fair. The curses are actually the reason that I ever got into like pure accounts.
Oh, really?
For those who have listened to episodes like this before, that they know I'm working on a 42 defense hardcore Ironman, and I have actually when the Inquisitor set came out and they made it 30 defense, I was like, well, now I have an excuse to make a 30 defense account. So so I have one of those as well. And that was actually inspired by back when curses came out, and to do Temple of Seniston all of the quests gave you 30 defense total. So it was like
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
it was a new type of Pure because everybody had the one defense, or they had the Zerker, or they had the Rune Pure. That was like the main three. Um, and then some of the Terminal Pure came out, and people were like, "This is crazy." Um, and it was just one of those things. It's like, I think it's healthy for the game to add new prayers. I'm with you on the fact that I think some of the curses would be cool to see. Like, I think Turmoil would be awesome. I think that the reflection overheads, but I think I agree with the proposal that if there's going to be new overheads, they should only decimate not 100% of damage, but maybe 80 to 90%, and have the other damage that hits you be reflected as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Higher risk, higher reward.
Yes. So that's kind of my thought on it. As well as I really want to see, if not Turmoil, I do really want to see better attack and strength buffs that Pures can use. Because right now the best we get is Ultimate Strength and Eagle Eye, Mystic Might, and what's it I'm looking for? Incredible Reflexes for attack.
Yeah, because what do you need to get Piety on a Pure? You can't do that before what, like 40 defense?
You have to have 70.
You have to have, oh, duh, that's right. It's a requirement for the prayer itself.
And they locked
Forgot about that.
Yeah, and they locked Augury and Rigor behind 70 defense as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to have something like that for Pures. I know, like, the whole, you chose to limit yourself thing, but, copium, man. I'm sipping
would make
on
more
it.
interesting would make more interesting interactions for sure, at least in the PvP community.
Absolutely. Plus, you also have um, the generation of Iron Men who are like, I want to limit myself in some way, so they make a Pure account, or like you and I have level 3 irons. It's it's a never ending like joke that you chose to limit yourself, so why would you want access to more of the game? And it's like, obviously I want access, but I also want to play the game how I enjoy playing the game.
At least I feel like recently, I feel like that mentality has waned a bit in the community. I was very doubtful that the recoil from Magpie Impling's poll was going to pass, but it actually passed with a pretty healthy margin. So it definitely seems like people are enjoying seeing what people can come up with in terms of restricted builds, and they're happy to provide a little bit more to those ideas.
Absolutely. I think the funny part about that too is, well, especially with the recoils in the Magpie table, I think many people who saw that were like, "What does that even matter?" Because
Yeah, that's a good point.
there were so many skips on it that my initial thought is that many people don't realize like why they wanted it to be added.
That's a really good point.
So, all right, few other things. Before we keep going, do you have any questions for me? Never asked
Um,
mid cast before, but I feel like it's a good time to ask.
yeah. So, what's it what's it like being a level 3 Ultimate Iron Man? Which is a very general question, but I'm looking for a general answer.
Um, if I had to put it into like one word, rewarding is the word I would look at saying.
Nice.
There's a few different like things that come with it. Um, with my account being as progressed as I am, uh, many people who like see me at a farming patch or wherever it is, if wherever I am in game, you'd be like, "Hey, nice account," and then I'll talk, and then they'll see the helmet, and they'll be like, "What the fuck?" Like it's one of those things. It's like because there's not many level 3 irons in general, so to see a level 3 UIM is already not common. I know a little bit has been. It's kind of been a little bit more portrayed to the mainstream with a few other YouTubers doing series like Sluffin and Mr. Frog. If you know any of those guys are,
Yeah, I'm actually familiar with Mr. Frog.
I think we actually have talked about him before. And
Yeah.
so yeah, with those two being bigger in the YouTube scene than I am, it of course like kind of brought notoriety to the fact that like there are people who are more sadistic than traditional Ultimate Iron Man, and that's usually what people say about me. They're like, you're psychotic and not in a good way.
I suppose that's its own reward in itself, huh?
Absolutely. I don't know. I think that like at the end of the day, the YouTube stuff is pretty much just for me. I watch my videos back every few months. I'll go back and watch the first and second ones just to like reminisce on where it all started and kind of like look at myself and be like, wow, like I cannot believe you went this far. Um, because growing up, I had a very bad habit of reaching one goal on an account and then quitting the account, coming back to RuneScape a month later and be like, I want to do a new goal. So like back in RS2 days, I did an untrimmed farming level 3. I did an untrimmed agility level 3. I did a level 3 that I was trying to get 120 fishing when 120 capes came out, all at
Oh wow.
Rocktails. And yeah, so like if I had just channeled all of my time into one account, I really could have like had an insane RS3 account at this point. But I've really got nothing to show for it now, which is funny to say because I don't have access to those accounts anymore. I've lost the usernames, passwords, many years ago.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yes. And that's the bad part. That's like the worst part about them changing it to email logins is like and you used to have to make an email for each one. So I had like probably 20 email accounts.
Oh yeah,
So nowadays I
that makes
keep
a
I
lot of sense.
keep all those accounts on a sheet in one place. So I never lose them again.
Yep, yep, me too. I've got my spreadsheet now. It's up to like 15 or 16 accounts now, though a lot of those are just throwaway.
Yeah, actually, I have an account that I use just for if I ever make a new one. It has like a bunch of Shield of Era certificates on it.
Oh, nice. That's super smart. I should do that.
So that's literally the only thing it exists for. So
Gotta get it done.
exactly. So one kind of funny thing I like to ask people who have been playing the game for a long time. Um, were you ever back in the day banned or muted for anything? And if you were, if you'd feel comfortable talking about that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So I was never banned, but I was muted one time because I used to play with some friends from school back in like 2007, 2008 era. And at the time, me and a friend were racing 299 woodcutting at the good old Draenor Willows, which was like, meta woodcutting inefficiency back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the bright idea to like jokingly act as if I was trying to password scam him in front of like everyone who was there. Um, which in hindsight was not a very good joke, but resulted in me getting a permanent mute, which was it felt very aggressive. Um, and I was extremely hurt by it, right? Like completely distraught, didn't want to play the game anymore. Then my friend had the bright idea to write the appeal, and he said something along the lines of like, I was using my friend's account, please remove the mute, and they accepted it and they removed the mute,
Oh,
which was very odd because at the time they were very opposed to account sharing as well.
so you're lucky they didn't just hit ban on the account too.
Yeah, exactly. Some JMod reviewing those appeals had some mercy that day.
They were like, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the
But
funny part about sorry, go ahead.
other than that, nothing. No bans, no mutes.
That's nice though. That's more than I can say. I was kind of a little rat back in the day. I did my fair share of botting back in the day. I'm clean, guys. I'm clean. I haven't touched any kind of bot since probably 2009.
That's good.
So, but it's
I
funny
mean,
when I saw you doing Scork Juice on stream, it brought back memories of me botting 99 Thieving doing Scork Juice.
oh really?
Yeah. I was like, I
Wow.
haven't seen that place in many years.
I suppose anything is spottable.
Yeah, because that was before everybody knew about like the one click Sorcerer's Garden plugin. Like that was before like, even back in the day we had SwiftKit, but as a small child, I did not know. As like a teenager, I was like, I don't know what that means. So
Yeah, I can't say that I never went looking for botting software, but I was never successful in actually using it.
So Jagex, you're listening. We're clean. We're clean.
Yeah,
Please no
that's my
ban.
testimony. I'm sticking to it.
Ugh. So one thing as well, I had to always ask people, especially somebody who's been going on with this series for it's been what 2 years now.
Yeah, 2 years, which is crazy to me. I can't believe it's already been 2 years.
How do you keep yourself motivated for the new updates, and how do you stop yourself from like saying, "Yeah, I'm just done with this. I'm going to play a regular account now."
So I think the balance of making content of it is probably the most helpful piece. Like I do get stuck in some multi-hundred-hour grinds, and it can get like really close to burning out during those grinds. But it helps a lot that like I can take a break for a couple hours and go work on like editing an intro or writing a skit or whatever. And that's kind of why the time traveler episodes have so much variety in them. It's kind of like more or less whatever I feel like making in that creative moment as I'm taking breaks from the actual grind. Um, that's the most helpful piece for sure. Other than that, I have taken some pretty lengthy breaks from the account, which have helped a lot. Like for example, when I was stuck in February of 2002, I'm sorry, March of 2002, doing the Entrana glass blowing grind for Glory. That's when the most recent leagues came out, Shattered Relics, and I basically said, "Oh, I'm gonna play Shattered Relics for a couple days, and then I'll get back to it." And I wound up playing the entire league the whole way through, and not actually touching Time Traveler at all. So that was a much needed break. I realized after the end, but then I got back to it and I was feeling super motivated again. So that helps a lot. Um, and that's also where the side projects come in mind too. Like I definitely was burning out quite a bit working on Time Traveler with no side project between the end of Macro Efficient and now with the level 3 Ironman. Um, just because I'm not a person to like multi-log and work on two accounts simultaneously very often unless I'm doing something completely brain dead on both accounts. But I do enjoy bouncing between them. So what I'll usually do is I'll work on one account exclusively for a month or 6 weeks, and then I'll bounce back to the other account and do that for a month or 6 weeks. That helps a lot with the content flow as well.
Very nice. That's a very like different way of going into it, because most people I talk to, they multi-log, including myself. I most things I do, I traditionally multi-log. It's just kind of how I play the game now. If I don't have a side project, I was calling you at 1.2 where like, I create an account. I'm like, oh, this is a side project. And then it became full focus and stopped putting as much time into like the initial thing I was working on. And so what kind of like deters you from two accounts at once?
Yeah, that's something I've always tried to figure out because like I've tried so many times to multi-log on more involved grinds than just like for example both accounts at MLM or something. Um, and I think it's just because I don't really find joy in being able to focus exclusively on the game, and that goes for multiple game clients at the same time. I think I find I have the most fun playing the game while watching a video, watching a movie, scrolling Twitter, whatever. But if I'm focusing on two clients at once, it makes it significantly harder to do those things and actually pay attention. Even to the point where like if I'm listening to a podcast where there's not even a visual element, I have trouble following the podcast if I'm doing something too involved with the game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some exceptions, like for example, like we talked about Tombs of a Mascot, doing that on the main was really fun, but that's so intensely involved, even more so that like I don't even want to do anything other than focus on just one client, I guess, which is kind of confusing, but I hope that made sense.
No, it makes absolute sense. It's funny, like you mentioned, like listen to podcasts and stuff, because I don't know if many people know this, but every time we record this with somebody, I'm like talking to you, I'm reading my questions, I'm doing agility, and I'm also playing my other account. And there are times
It's
I
actually
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you
I was
first.
just gonna say it's it's actually kind of funny. I didn't think I could do much during this interview because I have a really hard time focusing on people asking me questions while I'm doing something involved. So I went to use to do some AFK woodcutting, and now I'm just staring at the login screen because I logged out. Wasn't able to even do that.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm wasting your XP now.
No worries, not at all. I'm wasting my own XP.
It's funny because sometimes as well, like I'll be doing these, and I've had guests who will go really into depth to something. I'll be like listening super hard, and then out of nowhere, I'll just zone out, forget I'm talking to somebody, like grab my phone and start scrolling Twitter, and then they'll like get to the end, and I'll be like, oh no, I didn't listen to anything they just said.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's
Yeah, I've
like,
been there too.
oh yeah, you just get like so focused and intent, and then like there becomes a moment where your brain is just like something else.
Yep. It sounds about right.
Ugh. So one thing as well I want to talk to you about, we had like some weird time trying to figure out a good time for this. Just due to like both of our real life schedules just not matching up correctly. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about was your real life obligations compared to your want or love for playing the game. So like job, family, whatever, school, whatever it may be. So how do you balance your time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, so it all kind of works out for me in the end, I think, because RuneScape, I'm not a person who can play RuneScape for, 8, 10, 12 hours a day every day. I need a lot of variety in my life. I'm happiest when I think I have around like 3 to 4 hours a day to play, and that's what I've been able to find with my current balance. I think the trickiest part for me is because I'm a parent, I work full time. Um, it's just finding those little corners around the day that you can fill with some RuneScape time, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
No, it does absolutely
Um,
make sense.
so I at least like I have the advantage of working from home, so I can very easily take breaks during the day. I try to block out significant lengths of time to actually focus on my work to make sure I'm getting my work done first. But I will block off like my lunch break, and I'll use that time for some scaping, or maybe I finish my work for the day, so I'll take the last hour of the day and use that time for some scaping. Also, the easiest time is like late at night after the kids go to bed or early in the morning. That's when I'm usually happiest, I think, doing some gains. Um, but other than that, yeah, there are definitely times where it's like, oh man, I'm really into this grind that I was doing, and it's all I can think about right now. But I got to get dinner on for the kids. I got to get them ready for bed. I got to do all this other stuff first, and it kind of eats at the back of your mind a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but then when you can finally actually do it, and it feels more rewarding too.
I absolutely know what you mean. I was very very close to canceling again because I'm very into the Persona series. If you ever played them.
I've never played him, but I've heard of him.
So they've recently released Persona 3 and 4 onto modern consoles. And previously the only way to play those games was the traditional PS2 versions or the remade versions, and one was for the PSP and one was for the PS Vita. So, they were remade for consoles that like don't ever get talked about anymore. Um so I've actually finished 4 and 5. I finished 5 3 times. Um for those who know the Persona series know that one playthrough is about 100 to 150 hours. So a very big time commitment basically. And I bought 3 the other day and 4 again on my Switch.
Oh, nice.
And I was playing it at my partner's house, and then suddenly we were like, my partner was watching me play it, and they were like asking me questions about the series. Next thing I know, I've been playing the game for 7 hours, and I'm really sucked back into the story again.
Oh yeah,
Because
that makes a lot of sense.
3 was the only one I've never finished. Because everybody kind of writes off 1 and 2 because they're very different from 3, 4, and 5. And I've always wanted to finish 3. Never really had a good reason to do it though. I did have it for a PSP for a while, but I didn't like how the port felt.
Oh, gotcha.
So I almost canceled to continue playing that game because I logged off at about 4 o'clock and I was playing ever since then.
Nice. Well, there's nothing better than that feeling of like being super engrossed into a game, though. Like you gotta enjoy it. You gotta cherish that when you have it, because that's not something that you get all the time.
Absolutely, because even RuneScape, like I have a very disgusting habit. I smoke cigarettes. Don't do it, kids. Um, but every time I finish a Wintertide solo, because they take 45 minutes to an hour, depending how much attention I'm paying, I always like get up and go have a smoke break. Same with at work. It's like how I get rid of the monotony of my day. And I just like I could sit down and play Persona for like 4 hours and not even think about wanting one.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So, do you also play other games, or are you kind of RuneScape exclusive these days?
Pretty RuneScape exclusive, honestly. There have been phases in the last like few years where like I did play something. Like for a while I was really into Animal Crossing New Horizons for the Switch.
Very good.
Um every year or so I'll get like very briefly back into Minecraft because everyone's got to do their yearly Minecraft revisit, right?
I am the exact. I got super addicted, but last year in like October, I played for like 3 weeks, and me and my friends had a server and everything.
Yep, and then you just drop it and then don't touch it again for like another year.
Exactly.
I think for the most part, yeah, it's just RuneScape now. In order to get the progress that I want in the game, I realized, especially like in the last couple of years, that I have to just restrict myself to one video game hobby. And I'm okay with that. I mean, there's a lot of really cool games that you kind of see coming out. Like, for example, like Hogwarts Legacy is something that really interests me, and it's probably something that I would enjoy. But I'm like, do I really want to dedicate multiple weeks or months to that when I could be, progressing on the game on RuneScape instead? And I usually choose RuneScape.
That's fair. I respect that. It's very hard for me to when a game I'm anticipating comes out. Then I see, and that's the thing with the Persona thing is I wasn't going to buy them, and I was like, I got $40, and I was like, when am I gonna play them though? And now here we are.
Yep, exactly. As you get older, it's like more money, less time.
Yes, yes. And the same thing happened when Elden Ring came out. I don't know if you're a Dark Souls fan at all or a Soulsborne enjoyer.
I have never played one, but I really enjoy other people playing them, like watching them.
Yeah, so I got Elden Ring, it came out, day of release, and um shortly after the release, my boss was like, "Hey, by the way, I'm gonna need you to go to Chicago for work for about a month," and I was like,
Oh no.
I was so I like I put everything into it, and I finished the game in like 2 weeks before I had to go, before I had to go,
That yeah, that works.
and then I got an agility while I was in Chicago. So
Ah, yeah, perfect.
time switcheroo there.
That works.
Exactly. So, one thing I like to talk about as well is especially with you being a family man and full time job, career. Where neither of us are at that point where we're like we could drop a career and be full time YouTubers or streamers. And I don't know how you feel about like that kind of like mentality. Is there ever something that's crossed your mind in trying to be like a full time content creator, or are you happy just doing what you do?
When I started doing content creation, I always envisioned it as just a hobby, like something that I would never want to do full time because I wasn't sure if I would enjoy it that much. But as I've gotten more and more into it and I've gained more skills in like video editing and the content creation workflow, I'm realizing I'm enjoying it more and more. So if there ever did come a time where I could justify going full time content creation, that would be an amazing day. Realistically, though, I'm not sure if that will ever happen. I just feel like the niche that I'm targeting is a little bit too narrow for that to happen.
Hmm.
And that's also okay. Like I still really enjoy creating content for the audience I have. It's a blast, and I'm really grateful to have them.
I'm with you there. I personally don't think it would ever be something I'd want to do. I enjoy what I do too much for my like actual job, but
Yeah,
there are there are times I wish I could do like as time goes on, people are always like, "Hey, when's the next progress video coming out?" And of course, like I'm sure like once you get to a point in your iron skill, you'll hit the wall. Like, well, now it's gonna take 3 months for a video to come out because that's how long it's gonna take me to finish what I'm doing.
yeah. I'm dreading that day because I think it'll happen at some point. That's actually been one nice thing about Time Traveler is even though there have been multiple 100-hour grinds, there's always video to be made after it, which
Yes,
is nice because you've
yes.
got the month structure.
But there are times when I wish I could like full time like dedicate time to like getting that up for people. But then I truly would have to do more upgrades when it comes to editing. Probably have to start doing my own thumbnails. Many people don't know, but I pay people for my thumbnails. I am far too lazy to learn anything else. And that
That's actually a really good idea, though. I hate making thumbnails.
it's one of those things, like, it doesn't take that much time, but like the time it would take me to learn the software is time I could be putting into the game itself.
Exactly. Yeah, I had some knowledge of using GIMP before I started content creation, so that kind of carried over well. But thumbnail, for those who don't make content for YouTube, thumbnails are so critically important to the success of your content. It's almost sickening and maddening to the point where you just don't understand what works and what doesn't and why.
The YouTube algorithm is such a cruel mistress. Most of my videos, nothing has ever gotten like much traction. And then my last progress video uploaded right before my interview with Tanner Dino, it just blew up. Like, in terms of like what I see is blowing up, because it hit 1,000 views in under 24 hours, and that's never happened before.
It really is surprising. And like you feel like it'll YouTube tells you, "Oh, just get your click-through rate up or get your average engage time up." Some of my highest click-through rates and engage times are on videos that have performed the worst. So, I just it doesn't make any sense to me. It's all mystery.
Exactly. Exactly. So, with all that being said, what do you see yourself? What's your future in the game? Do you see yourself continuing the game for many years to come, or once you finish Time Traveler and then get to a happy point in your heart on your Iron Skiller, you'll be like, that's it for me. What are you thinking?
So I definitely think that Time Traveler is very close to my heart. It's not something that I want to put down anytime soon, though. As I said before, once I get to those major decision points where we're about to transition into a new era of the game, that'll be a good time to evaluate if it's worth continuing that project. But for now, I'm all in on it. No plans to slow down. I think generally speaking, the projects that I like to do aren't like I want to complete every little aspect of the game to a point where like I'm, maxed or whatever. Like for example, with the Macroefficient series, when I started it, I was like, "Oh, this series did pretty well. Maybe I should continue it after getting the quest point cape, which was the whole goal." But then I realized I just don't really enjoy playing a normie main all that much, so I'd rather not force the content if that makes sense.
It
Uh,
absolutely makes sense. I Back from one of my first guests, he told me back then, he was like, the moment you stop enjoying something, just stop doing it. Obviously, like, disregard, like it's hobby wise or like entertainment wise. Obviously, if you have a job and you need to pay bills, you gotta keep doing that. Um,
yeah.
but it was, that kind of spoke to me. It was like, the moment I like, because Mayfield has always been for the last almost 3 years or over 3 years at this point, it has been the number one focused account. I have had many accounts come and go since then, but Mayfield is always the one I come back to, and I'm always like, this is it right here. This is like the RuneScape account that I will play forever, as long as I play RuneScape at least. So do you kind of see Time Traveler as like that for you right now?
I think so, yeah, because every time I've taken a break from it, I've always come back. And even like from a content creation perspective, it's really interesting because that series never really did amazing in terms of the actual reaction to the content. It has gained success based on the success of my other two series, but never of its own necessarily. Um, but it's still like it's very close to my heart. It's a passion project. It's something that I dreamed about for like 2 years before even starting. So it definitely will be a hard one to put down. I don't think I will anytime soon.
That's actually leads me into one thing I really wanted to ask you. I totally forgot about till now. One of those, left my mind, and then as soon as we start talking about something, it came right there. Um, did you theorycraft the account when the Snowflake Ironman boom happened? Back kind of when Swampletics was doing it, and everybody was like, "We can all do this too."
Oh, remind me, when did Swampletics? When was the like glory days of
Oh my gosh! You're gonna make me open up a YouTube page quick. and look at it because it's crazy to think about a RuneScape creator having. Like, so I watched Settled before something. I watched him when he was just doing his UIM.
Oh wow.
So like I remember him just doing UIM content, and then Swamplex came out, and it was like it just this like cult thing, and there was this insane boom of uh, unique Ironman, and everybody was like, oh, there's like more ways to play the game, right? Because there was a small community for it. You had like you had Karamja only, you had Mori only. There was a few other like Snowflake Iron Man who like pretty much only posted on Reddit and stuff. But I think
Mhm.
he was like one of the first big YouTubers to really do it. Um, it's saying 4 years ago, but I don't want to. Please don't copyright me for the audio you're about to hear. Thank you. Oh no. Oh no. Thank you. Um, December 21st, 2018.
Wow. Yeah, that can't believe that was that long ago. That's almost 5 years ago.
I I know, right?
So yeah, actually I would have been theory crafting Time Traveler about a year before that even came out, but I don't remember definitively if like I saw some Swampletics because like I was a huge Swampletics enjoyer when it was happening. I remember being super hype when those episodes came out. I can't say for sure that it was like oh man, this is so great. I have to do my own Snowflake Iron Man because it was already kind of in the works. But I'm sure that was a motivating factor at even subconsciously.
Mm-hmm. So, are you a big content consumer of other RuneScape YouTubers, or do you kind of traditionally like put your time into the game, and then kind of not think about it too much outside?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, for anyone who is a content creator or is looking to get into content creation, one of the most valuable uses you can have of your time, other than actually creating content, is researching what other people are doing in your niche. So I'm constantly on the lookout for new videos, specifically ones that are performing very well, and of course I follow all the biggest creators to see what they're up to as well. Um, I say generally speaking, of the content I consume somewhere between like 60 and 70% is just OSRS YouTube content. The rest is like, Netflix, whatever. Um, but the vast majority of it is actually just watching other people play the game. Just because not only is it entertaining, it's also great research to figure out what I need to do for my stuff.
That's a great point to make. There's actually a point that I was watching so much YouTube that I was like, okay, I feel like it's gonna be worth it, and I actually have YouTube Premium
Oh,
to
nice.
avoid ads, just because like there became a point where I was watching it so much, and like, yeah, you can have an ad blocker, but like I watch on my phone or on like my tablet or on like a different computer that I didn't have a browser that I didn't have like my Chrome signed into or whatever it was. So I was like, as long as I'm signed into my YouTube account, I have YouTube Premium.
YouTube
So,
Premium is great too because it actually supports the creators more than an ad view, which is awesome.
oh, does it really?
Yeah, it does proportionally.
I did not know that. I did not
Yeah,
know
it's
that.
a it's great. It's also expensive now though, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was what like I think I paid like $11 a month for it, but like
Yeah.
I use it far more than I use like you were saying like your Netflix, Hulu's, HBO Maxes. I use it way more than any of those.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So for me, it's the cost outweighs the benefit outweighs the cost. I should say.
That's a good point. I will say that there is one downside to watching so much YouTube content, and it does wind up getting stale in some regards. Like it's really hard to get engaged with a new series when it's like your fourth extreme one chunk Iron Man that you've watched in a month. Um,
Yes.
and I'm all for like supporting new content creators and stuff. And if you are someone who wants to get engaged with that, like don't get discouraged just because there's other content that already has that idea. Put your own spin on it, whatever. Um, but as someone who consumes a lot of content, it can be a little hard to be excited about other people doing that kind of stuff. Which is just a downside as a viewer, I think.
Yes, and it's one of those things too because I feel like you sound like very similar to me in the way where you're always looking for that next big YouTube series, like before, whether it pops off or not. Like, I was already subscribed to JCW before he started doing the speedrun to max. If you watch that one at all,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
um,
Is I don't think I was subscribed to his YouTube channel, but I had been following him way since like the early old school RuneScape days.
Yes, yeah, like his streams and stuff too. Yeah.
Hmm.
So like I remember him uploading that video, and I think it had already started popping off. I think it was like between 2 and 5,000 views already, and I was like, this is gonna go crazy.
Hmm.
And
Oh
then
yeah, you can tell.
and
There's
then
sharks in the water.
yes, and then with Hey Box Young, I'm pronouncing his name wrong for sure. A 200 mil all top page gamer was like, hey, let me get in on this, and just man, and like they put their all into it, and God, it's so good. Probably as we're probably like, I think I like Hey Box Young's like style more, but man, like those two series for me are two of the ones I like. As soon as they hit my sub box, it's instantaneous watching. Like I'm at work and I'm like, oh, that means it's lunch break time.
That's great. Yeah, honestly, I was surprised it took that long for someone to find a way to incorporate the kind of like the speedrunning craze into old school RuneScape.
Hmm.
Um, because like speedrunning content has always historically done really well on YouTube. There's people who just like their whole purpose is to highlight speedruns of classic games, and they like get millions of subs, right? Um,
Yes.
so find for them both to find such a perfect way to incorporate the speedrunning content into RuneScape is just amazing, and like it didn't surprise me that they popped off when that happened.
Yeah, it's really amazing because like I'm totally with you. I also like I love watching speedrunning content. I watch like the HDQ, SGDQ for those who know what those are. Awesome games done quick. Um, Summer games done quick. Those marathons, like the causes they support and how big those events have grown over the years. And like Summoning Salt, the YouTube channel who like highlights weird, obscure, and sometimes more commonly known speed runs and how crazy his channels popped off. And man, it's crazy. Like I still remember watching YouTube back when it was in its infancy, and like your big YouTubers were doing like skits and stuff. And now the biggest content out there is like video essays and like gaming videos, and of course, like if you're on the child side of YouTube, it's always the like the toy reviews and stuff. It's just crazy like how the landscape of YouTube has become, and it gives anybody a platform to do like what we're doing here, or like your billion subscriber channels, or your like not billion I guess, but like your PewDiePies and your Markipliers and those guys too. It's incredible how the landscape has changed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I actually this is my second foray into YouTube. I had a channel way back in 2010, 2011, kind of like that pre-EOC kind of golden era that I was talking about before. Um and thinking back to how YouTube was back then and like how you got popular and comparing it to now is just like it's like a whole nother world.
Oh, absolutely. You can actually, if you try hard enough, you could find some of my channels from when I was like 14 or 15 and trying to make skiller content. It's always fun.
Oh
I,
man.
I I know what they are, so I can always. That's one thing I actually do too. I'll look up my super old channels from back in the day, and I'll go watch them and see what I was up to back then. And it's very interesting to hear how things have changed.
Yeah, unfortunately, I nuked my old channel at some point when I was in college, which was one of my biggest regrets. But I do have a lot of the videos downloaded still locally, and looking back on them is like, oh, that was not really good content, but it was what felt right in the moment, I guess.
It's a fun little time capsule.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the couple more. I got two more small questions for you. First one would be, who is your favorite content creator to watch at the moment? Who you think doesn't get enough recognition, and then who do you think is your favorite right now? That is like top tier. Just like people know who they are.
Oh, that's a really good question. There's so many, it's hard to pick.
I know.
um, if I had to pick one person that I think is still kind of under the radar and makes really good content, I think I'd pick I never know how to pronounce his name, but I think it's Boucher or Boucher, Boucr.
Hmm.
He does a one chunk typical rule set Ironman, but he started in Falador. He was kind of one of the ones who took the one chunk concept and took it to a different location first. Which is why I was always surprised that I saw other people who happen to do the same thing in different regions get a little bit more popularity than him because he kind of did it first. But I've really enjoyed his series. I feel like his presentation style is really engaging and it's really easy to get into. And he starts in Faulder, which is really interesting. He has to do like an 99 mining grind in like the third episode, so that's pretty interesting. And then I'd say top tier, I probably would pick Settled. I mean, every video that guy puts out is just like engaging to the max. Like top tier editing, presentation style is just it flows so well. There's
I,
not a video that he puts out I'm not immediately watching and enjoying.
I absolutely agree. I love like the challenge he did where he got the challenge from the unknown source. You know, who even if that was scripted, I don't think it matters. Like when he like had to get out of the mage bank or whatever, like that was really cool. And then like the second video on that series is really cool.
Absolutely. And somehow that guy is still finding the most unique ideas that work really well in the very narrow idea of what is a restricted RuneScape series that fits content creation. Like after Swampletics, it's like okay, what's next? And then oh, tile locked. Okay, that's pretty cool. What's next? Oh, we're doing one inventory slot now. There's no way that would work, but holy crap, it actually is super entertaining.
Yeah, that the one inventory slot is the first one that I've watched, and I've been like, okay, I expected different, but I was pleasantly surprised by the content.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if I had to shout out two different like people, like the two series that are pretty underground right now that I watch are this person who was a part of the like high level scaling community recently made a UIM. Their name is LOH3, and they're doing an Ultimate Ironman series right now, and it has just been an incredible watch. As well as somebody else has done the um, any percent max cape speedrun, but this person did a moral percent and is doing it on an Ironman. So no alts, no nothing.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I do not remember the name of the channel, but I will link them in the description of this video so anybody can go check those out. And then, of course, I think my big YouTuber for me is probably right now. It's probably Limpwort or Tedious. Those are my two number ones right now.
Oh, those guys are good too.
I actually made a Taskman for a while. That was one of my side projects.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's one I've always wanted to toy around with, but haven't had time to.
And then my final question for you kind of ties back into my question about your future RuneScape. One thing I didn't really ask is like, do you like a monetarily like yearly amount? Like, do you see yourself still playing the game in 5-10 years, or as long as the game's alive, or do you not really think ahead that far?
It's a really good question, and actually something I think about from time to time. So, the fact that I've been playing this game pretty much without super long extended breaks between all of its versions since 2005, which is what 18 years now. I think there's probably a really good chance that I'll still be playing in 5 to 10 years if the game's still going. And honestly, I don't see a reason why the game would end because the player base is still growing as it is right now. I mean, it's still not quite to what it was in its glory days, but it's well on its way. Like we're hitting over 100,000 peaks per day now, which is kind of crazy to think about. Um, so realistically, yeah, I don't see a world like maybe my relationship with it changes. Maybe I stop making content in 5-10 years. Maybe it's just more of a thing that I return to every once in a while, like Minecraft. Like for example, I love leagues so much that as long as they keep putting out a league every year or two, I will always return for the league. It's just too much fun. Um, I can see myself doing that until the end of time.
The leagues are a very fun game mode. I remember the first one came out. When the first one came out, I actually did one of my other projects, of course, was a Zaya locked Iron Man. And so when they were like, first league is Zaya only, I was like, I got this in the bag. I didn't quite make Dragon, but I did get a rune trophy on that one.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So and that then actually I did that on Mayfield. Like that this is the account I have those trophies on.
Oh, that's awesome.
So well, Kuda, that's all I got for you today.
Wonderful. It's been a great conversation.
I've really enjoyed talking with you. First person, like I said, I've had on who hasn't been like a top page skiller of some sort or a big EHP person. So it's been a very interesting and like different conversation to have with somebody. It's been a very wonderful time. One thing I always like to mention is that come a year or two from now, if things change a lot, or you're doing something a new big series or anything of that nature. If there's anything more you want to talk about, I always love talking about giving people the chance to come back, or maybe if I do a cast with a bunch of other like Snowflake Ironman YouTubers, I will hit you up and to be on like a multi-person cast for that too.
That sounds great to me.
So, anything you want to talk about or say before we sign off, or any questions you have before we sign off?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's been a wonderful conversation. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you again, and have a good rest of your day, night, morning, wherever you are
You as
from.
well.
Not you specifically, but everybody. But you have a great night.
Sounds great. Bye, everyone.